So, Candice, great to have you here on my podcast today. We have known each other for a while, and for those that don't know me, I'm Randy Wolgemuth, Sunrise Group, and today we're going to have a conversation with Candice about some things that tweaked my interest a while back on LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. And so, but first of all, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I lead business development at Three Way Builders, and a lot of people wonder what that means. We build buildings at Three Way, but we can't build buildings without first building relationships. So that's where I come into play. It's something that I absolutely love doing. But I think my most important job is that I am a wife and mother to 3 now adult children. So that's a new adventure. I thought this was the easy territory. And learning that while I build relationships at work, I still have to continue to build them at home because now it's 3 adults. And so the dynamics of that relationship changes. So it's a lot of fun. I'm at a really fun season of life and enjoying every day.
Oh, right on. Well, that's very good. Well, again, thank you very much for agreeing to do this. So I've got some questions which I'll ask you. First one is, you wrote about wondering whether you really had a seat at the table, which kind of intrigued me. And can you tell us about a specific moment when you felt like you didn't belong and what changed?
Yeah, I think there have been lots of those moments in my life. And after I'd made that post, I think it became a reality that that's a real thing for a lot of people. I came into business development in a very unconventional way. I was in radio, I worked in auto finance, I worked in sales and marketing, and suddenly I was sitting at the table with architects, engineers, C-suite members of their companies, people who have been in construction for 30 years. And I remember thinking to myself as I sat at the table, what am I doing here? Like, how did I get here? And what changed was when I realized that I didn't have to know what everybody else at the table knew. That's what brought them here. And so I just tapped into what I felt like my superpower was. I'm curious. I ask questions. I can connect people. I pay attention to what the people in the room are saying, but also to what they're not saying, watching the people that aren't speaking. And so I think I just stopped trying to earn my seat and pretending what I didn't know, and just tapped into what I did know. So I realized I didn't have to change who I was to be sitting around that table.
Yeah. Very good. Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you make an interesting distinction between opinions and advice. How do you decide whose opinions you listen to and whose advice you actually act on?
Yeah, the opinions and advice. It's something, that's a topic that I hung up on for quite some time. It was something that I studied personally. It was something that I asked AI for wisdom on. I had researched it through a few of my favorite authors. And kind of where I arrived was understanding the difference between opinions and advice before I was going to decide which I was going to accept more of. And I think what I landed on first was that everybody gets an opinion, but not everybody is going to get influence. And opinions are just simply that. They're just somebody's opinion, but advice comes from wisdom and experience and education, and a lot of times. So I listen to opinions. Sometimes they're valuable, but advice is different. And when I think of who I want to take advice from, I think of, do I respect that person in their personal and in their business life? Do I respect how they lead? Have they walked through something similar to what I'm walking through? It's easy to give advice from the sidelines. I think we've all experienced that in our life, but I've learned a lot of times that the loudest opinion isn't always the wisest one. Mm-hmm. And the people that I trust are most often the ones who ask the most questions and speak the least. They kind of just let you arrive at your own, at your own space. Yeah.
No, that's interesting. Very good. So you talk about the black coffee rule. That growth often comes through discomfort. Looking back, what's one uncomfortable lesson you're now incredibly grateful you had to learn?
Well, I think like the black coffee rule isn't something that I arrived at. It was actually something that somebody else had posted on LinkedIn. Again, it was something in my own personal development that I mulled over for a long time. I chewed on it, I sipped on it. We'll use a coffee reference. And for a long time, if something felt uncomfortable, I assumed it was because maybe I wasn't ready or I wasn't qualified. And I think a lot of us stop there then. It's uncomfortable, it's our body's reaction or our mind's reaction to not being ready, or it's our instinct telling us to no longer move forward. For me, that was like cold calling somebody. That was walking into a room where I didn't know anybody. It was sending an email to a CEO that I had no business emailing. Sitting at a boardroom table, like I had talked about earlier, wondering if I belong there. Those things are still uncomfortable. I don't ever want to feel like I arrive at those things. The difference is that I don't automatically interpret those as discomfort or stop anymore. That's kind of the reality of the black coffee rule, that some things are bitter because they're bad for you. Mm-hmm. Some things you should just put down. Some things are bitter because you haven't acquired a taste for them yet. Yeah. It's a taste for the first time, and it's ew at first until you start to pick up the notes or the hues and the flavor that you actually like and enjoy, and until you slow simmer and they become where your feet are.
Wow, very good.
Thank you.
Well, I sip on Diet Pepsi, as you know. So.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, Patrick Leccioni talks about the courage to admit we don't know something. Why do you think vulnerability is still so difficult for leaders, even though we all know it's important, or we should know it's important?
Yeah, well, we should know it's important. You know, it's funny. I've worked for so many great leaders in my life, you being one of them, if I'm being very honest. And somewhere along the way, we decided that leadership meant that you had to have all the answers. I don't know why we decided that. I don't know who decided that. And it was like the higher that you moved in an organization, there was more pressure on them to have all the answers. And the leaders that I've respected most are the ones that say, I don't know, or let's arrive at an answer together. Yeah. The leaders that I look up to and that I respect are ones that bring you along on the journey. So they don't just bulldoze a path for you and say, follow me. It's let's take this journey together. And I think that when Patrick talks specifically about vulnerability, it's in a super practical way. It's not oversharing. It's being able to say, I got that wrong, I need help. Oftentimes, some of the greatest leaders are like, well, I think you do this better than me, or you know more about this. Let's talk about this together. They're not afraid of growth. And I think that's vulnerability is often seen as that is a weakness. And I think vulnerability in leadership can be such a tremendous strength. And if we allow people to not know all the answers, we're actually empowering better leaders.
Yeah. No, that's very good. I realized a while ago that the more vulnerable I am, the more vulnerable the people will be that I with. Mm-hmm. And I experienced that again last week. It was very interesting. I shared a bit more than I would in a typical meeting. And then I got some information from him that was very valuable, actually. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's very good. As you've grown in your career, you said you've become a better listener. What changed? Was there a mentor, an experience, or even a failure that taught you the value of listening before speaking?
Oh, always. I think that's been my 43 years of life that it's learning. And I don't think I've become a better listener. I think I'm becoming a better listener, because I think in certain situations, our reaction is to speak and to fill silence. I think at work, maybe I'm a better listener than I am at home. But I don't know that there's a single moment where I just started noticing, where I noticed that I was becoming a better listener. But I used to listen so that I could answer, if that makes sense. Yeah. I used to listen. In my head, I was trying to come up with an answer. Now I try to listen because I'm genuinely curious about what people are saying and what they're going to say next, right? You kind of lean in for that next response. And in what I do specifically in business development, people tell you almost everything that you need to know if you give them enough time to talk, right? We made a joke even just here. Yeah. 40 minutes is where you're cutting me off. I feel like I could do this for 2 hours, because as you continue talking, people continue to say more.
Yeah.
And I don't just mean with words, but I mean they start to express their feelings. They start to inadvertently share with you their goals, their strengths and weaknesses. And in what I do in business development, that's really important, but it's also important as a spouse, as a mom, as a friend. When I think of the most cherished relationships that I have, I've had to learn to sit and listen. And I've also had to learn to sit and be okay in silence. There's a lot that is said in a silent space among friends. Yeah. And so I stopped listening, or I stopped waiting for my time to speak and just chose to accept my position in listening. And it's been incredible. 2 ears, 1 mouth, right?
Yeah, it's pretty good teaching.
Yeah.
2 in 1.
Exactly.
Yeah. If someone listening today feels like they're sitting quietly around the boardroom table wondering if they belong, what would you tell them?
Oh man, when this question came in, I pondered it for a really long time, and I want to be that person in the people in my life and in strangers' life that's empowering. It's something that I feel like, that God is a gift that He's given me, and certainly what He's put on my heart. But I'd probably tell them that the person sitting across the table, who also looks incredibly confident to a lot of us, is probably questioning why they're in that seat too. And every experience that I've had with somebody at a C-suite level, whether it's, somebody in the Richardson building in Winnipeg, or recently with a lady from Peak at the Market, they all have those doubts. And they all question, do I belong here? How did I get here? What's my next move from here? How do I keep this seat? And you don't have to wait for your qualification to participate in a conversation. And that's what that is. Sending the email, sitting in the seat, asking for the lunch, walking up to a stranger at an event. That's just participation, and nobody needs to give you permission to do that. Yeah. So ask a question, say what you're thinking, be curious, make a joke. It's often a great icebreaker. You just got to jump. You got to taste the bitter coffee for the first time.
Yeah. Well, that reminds me, I was a director on an association, and it's an American association, but I was the representative for Canada. And everyone there is, of course, graduated from college, and they talk about their alma mater, all this stuff, and the teams and whatever. And I'm sitting there, my high school dropout from Canada. Anyway, I finally brought it up and just said, and they just started laughing. Didn't really care.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't
matter.
It didn't matter.
No.
So anyway, by the way, if you have any questions for me, I'm fine with that too. But a couple other ones here just want to add on to is, has there ever been feedback that really stung but ultimately helped change you?
Well, I think I've probably had a lot of feedback in my life that has stung. I think back to a critical moment when I was 18 years old and I got fired from my first job. And the feedback that I got was, while I'm sure it was supposed to be a growing moment, it was painful, and it was from a leader in this community who I highly respect now, and I get to work alongside him on a number of projects. So it's a great 360 moment, but at the same time, it was very painful. And he said to me, I'm not saying that you're immature, but you're acting immature, and you got a long way to go. And then we parted ways. And I thought, that is so mean, like as a leader. But I think what he was careful to say was, I'm not accusing you of being immature. I'm saying that you're acting immature, that you're not, maybe who you said you were going to be. I immediately wanted to defend myself, which I think we often want to do when we get negative feedback. My first reaction was, that's not fair. And thankfully, I sat in it a little longer, 20 years. I mean, I probably grew up in that time, but I have since thanked him for doing that. I mean, had he let me continue to work for him and be immature, where was the gain, right? Yeah. It took somebody, to break that little 18-year-old heart in order to force me to grow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I was Waldo Neustater, by the way. Maybe edit that out. But tremendous leader now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So here's another good one here, I think. How do you know when to speak up and when to be quiet? Now, I have a saying for myself. My personality is to jump to conclusions and talk. Right? So I tell myself, when in doubt, shut up.
That's good advice.
It really saved me. When I don't always think of it, but often, okay, I'll just be quiet. But how do you kind of decide when it's time to just be quiet?
Well, it's interesting because for, again, a good portion of my life, I was super uncomfortable with the silence. So I felt like I needed to speak, right? The D personality in me too, kind of wants to control a room or the temperature in a room. But now what I try and do is ask myself, am I adding value? Am I speaking just because the silence is uncomfortable? Am I adding value by being quiet? And so those are things to be considered when trying to decipher when I should speak and when I should listen. And what's funny is, your default to just be quiet is probably where most of us should arrive.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, for most of my life, it was just speak because it was awkward or speak because I felt like that was my gift. Now I feel like my gift is just to listen and certainly ask the questions for sure. Yeah. But my questions are based on, somebody else's responses.
Yeah.
To feed the conversation. So.
Well, and most people like to be asked questions. They like talking about themselves. They like talking about their business or whatever, right? So it's being kind and making them feel good, right? I mean, that's the law of curiosity in that Maxwell's book, right?
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's one question you would wish more leaders would ask?
It's funny, this comes from actually our leadership team at work. One of the things our leaders ask a lot, and I'm thankful for, is they ask, what am I not seeing? So in the people that, I'm responsible for, what am I not seeing in their personal life or in their work life? What am I not seeing on a project? What am I not seeing in our business projections? What am I not seeing in our losses that are teaching moments? We can all see what we see, right? And we celebrate what we see often, right? Because those are our successes. We forget that we need to look really closely at what's not obvious to us and really drill down into that. And I think that's something that, my husband does that really well in what he does as a coach and as a mentor. I think that's something that he focuses on a lot. What's not obvious to me? Yeah. And then, how do I need to drill down into that? But also in what we do as a company at work, in trying to grow, we have to drill down into the things that aren't obvious. And I wish that more leadership did that. And maybe they do in their own way, and it's not obvious to the rest of us, but I think it would be, it's critical to just look outside the box, I think maybe is the cliche saying. But
no, that's very good. Yeah, no, it's easy to focus. Well, it's easy to focus on the negative, and it's easy to focus on the positive, but the negative, what are we seeing? What are we not seeing that we can make things better, right? It's a very good way of doing that.
Well, I think in leadership too, I think we all have this perspective that, again, that maybe we know everything or we have the assumption that we're supposed to know everything. When we drill down into what we're not seeing, it's acknowledging that our view is incomplete and that, we're not seeing the full picture. Our peripheral can't pick up everything. Yeah. So when we ask the question of what am I not fully seeing, what's incomplete, it's acknowledging that, we have to rely on other resources, other people, other assessments, whatever, sometimes AI to help assist with what we're not seeing. So
that's very good. Yeah. I guess this will age you, but anyway, you already said how old you were. You could have coffee with your 25-year-old self. What advice would you give her?
Oh man, this question made me emotional, and maybe it does to a lot of people, but I would like to say that where my feet are today the path here hasn't been comfortable, and I probably chose for myself a bumpier road than I needed to. I mean, certainly family history is going to play a role in that, and there's lots of variables that have had to take place in order for me to get to where I am today. But when I look back at 25-year-old me, so I'll just give you a picture. I was married. I had 2 kids. So at 25, now I view that as being a baby because I have a 23-year-old daughter. But when I look back at who she was and who I am today, I would tell her to stop trying to prove who she is so much. Stop trying to fight your way into a conversation or into a room. I would say that the things that matter then don't matter today. And that's a big line for you, right? Does it matter 10 years from now?
Yeah.
I've held on to that. So when you tell us these little nuggets, we take them with us. So you are a powerful leader.
Well, will it matter 20 years from now? The only problem now is 20 years from now, you never know how long we'll be around, but now it's 10 years.
Yeah, it shortens, right? As the scale
does it
gets...
matter? It's a big deal to me. Yeah,
I mean, it's just perspective, right? But yeah, the 25-year-old me, I think, was fighting really hard to get somewhere, arrive somewhere where she felt comfortable and confident, because she wasn't that then. And again, not that I'm there now, but I'm choosing now to be present and to be where my feet are. It's a statement I've used a lot in the last 365 days, to just be present. And so when I look back at her, I would just tell her to slow down, be confident in where you are, lean on the people that you feel like you can trust, which was scary back then, because again, leaning or asking for help seemed like a weakness. Now I think that's the greatest strength, when you realize that you can bring other people, you can add another cord to the rope to make it stronger. Yeah. Why not? Why would you not want to, right? I think she was pretty cool 25 years ago too. I would tell her that I am proud of her, because it hasn't been an easy road from 25 to 43, but necessary.
Yeah, we all have a path, and some of the things that happen are not our choice.
Yeah, some are.
Some are. We have quite important. A few choices.
Yeah. Free will is something.
There's another one here. Do you think confidence comes before action, or does confidence come because we keep showing up?
Well, I think action. What's funny, I would say a little bit circumstantial, but I think kind of back to the black coffee rule, I think a lot of times we just need to put one foot in front of the other, and we just need to, put things in motion. I'm a big action person. I'm a D. Of course, I'm a big action person, but it's maybe along the lines of you fake it till you make it, but you got to put things in action first. I think you got to wake up. You got to, put one foot in front of the other. You got to go to work. You got to try, I think, is a big thing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No. Yeah, I'm a D, as you know. So
what would the world do without D's? We're taking over the office.
Yeah. What's something you've changed your mind about over the last 5 years?
Something I've changed my mind about. I would go back to that same, when we were talking about leadership and them knowing everything, and the common misconception about leadership. I would say I had that. And so I've changed my mind about leadership and them having to know everything. Now, again, I think some of the strongest leaders are incredibly curious. And I know John Maxwell talks about curiosity being a superpower. That's something, I have it written in my mirrors. I have it written in my car. I think leaders that ask the questions, that are curious, that are constantly learning and educating and willing to, change little bits of themselves to be better people, I think that's incredible. And I didn't always think that. Again, I thought that the leader sat at the top and cracked the whip so that we all moved, and that's really not. Yeah. Some are. Not good ones. But it's certainly, as I've grown in my career and in my personal life, and I've been able to walk alongside some incredible leaders that have changed my perspective. That's pretty cool.
Good.
Yeah.
No, that's very good. Do you have any questions for me?
If you could talk to 25-year-old Randy, what would you say?
What would I say? Well, my answer, I think, would be similar to yours. Just chill. Mm-hmm. I am quite driven. I have been my whole life. But you talk about being in the room where you didn't belong. So my father, in his day, he was quite a famous leader. And so, and I worked for him and with him. And then when he gave over a bunch of responsibilities to me, and then he actually moved away, then these employees that I inherited, they all told me that your dad was the best boss we ever had. And I'm their new boss.
Big shoes to fill.
So I felt weird.
Yeah.
But over a period of time, I realized, you know what? I'll never be like my dad. I need to blaze my own path and be who I am and do the best I can. And so I joke about being a high school dropout, but I've taken so many training courses over my lifetime and I still take training courses all the time and listen to podcasts, whatever. And I love learning. I'm a very curious person as well. I know stuff that I shouldn't know, but just because it really
and for no good reason. Yeah.
But it's interesting.
Yeah.
So, just try hard, but not worry so much what other people think. Most people actually don't. In business, I want to say this properly, but we're not that important to other people.
That's right.
I mean, we are important to our family and that, but when you get in sales and stuff, I teach sales. I said, you're not that special. You're trying to help this person, but don't think that they're sitting at home wondering about how great Candice is, how great Randy is, and want to do business with them. No, that's not realistic, right? So John Maxwell, he's been teaching this a lot. Get over yourself. It's not about you, right? So that's...
Yeah. Get out of your own way.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
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 No. So anyway, then... So I have a question for you, another one that I want to ask. Where do you see yourself in, let's say, 5 years? Or let's say 10 years.
Okay, yeah. 5 seems short-sighted.
Yeah.
10 years. Again, it's hard to say that, I would want my feet to be here or I would want my career to be at this point in my life. I think where I'm choosing, or the perspective that I'm choosing to have on that is 10 years from now, I hope that I am empowering people. I hope that my people that are important in my life know that they're important to me and that they're loved and that I would lay down my life for them. I hope that my clients, if I'm still in business development, know that I am their advocate and that I'm trustworthy and that I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do. I hope that I'm doing that. I hope that I'm doing what I say I'm going to do, and that I'm trustworthy. And I hope that I'm empowering the 25-year-old me's. It was never something that I ever considered before, but I feel this, I'm not going to say burden, I feel this excitement for the younger women in business, whether it's sales or finance or marketing. I feel this joy in meeting with them and connecting with them and empowering them. And so I hope 10 years from now, that still gets to be a gift. I hope that I'm still asking questions, and yeah, it's not like there's not a, salary trajectory, or I hope I'm a grandma, if I can throw that out there. I hope all my kids are married and that I'm a grandma, in that order. But yeah, I hope I'm still serving Jesus and my husband's helpmeet, and I want to be an awesome coworker that is inspiring. And I hope I never lose my curiosity. Yeah. I hope I'm always nosy and curious, always asking the questions. Findoutalogist, right? Put that on the business card.
Yeah, well, I know you're curious.
I am.
So, okay, well, one more question that I was going to ask. How do you, as a woman in business, just how is it?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've got this question a couple times now, because oftentimes I'm sitting across from male leaders, and I work in a pretty male-dominated industry, and by that I mean construction, business development. There's a lot of females. Sales in general, there's a lot of females now, thankfully. But I think women in business has evolved over the last number of years. I feel like I am respected. But I'm respected not because I'm female. I'm respected because I'm doing my job, and I'm doing it with class and with dignity, just like a male counterpart would. I want to say the last 10 years, I've never been in a situation where I felt like I did or didn't have an opportunity because of my gender. So I feel like in Canada specifically, it's a beautiful place where I think women in business have lots of opportunity if we are going at it the right way. And by right way, I mean just on merit. It's not about my gender. It's what do I bring to the table? Have I done my research? Am I educated? Yeah, it's not because I'm female or because I'm not male. It's simply based on merit.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Right on. Okay, then, well, I've got one more question here that I want to ask you. One of the things I love asking successful people is this. Looking back, what has been more important to your growth, having the right answers or asking the right questions?
You know that answer. Again, questions, always. Yeah. And I mean, I think that we always get to the right answers. We always get the answers we need if we're willing to ask the right questions. Some questions are really hard to ask, right? Yeah. And sometimes we ask the wrong questions, open can of worms that we're not ready for. If I could have an entire conversation asking questions, I would. Yeah, I love it. I love the curiosity. I love... for a long time, my husband called me nosy. Now I think he's jumped on board the curiosity because I think nosiness always has this negative connotation, right? That I'm going to take that information, I'm going to manipulate it, and I'm going to feed it back as gossip. I think curiosity is I want to get to know you better, and I want to be able to help once I know you better. I want to be able to, assist you in whatever you need simply by asking questions. I want to know the weaknesses in your business, the strengths in your business. I want to know what your family's doing and what they're not so that we can relate to one another. Yeah, always ask the questions.
I agree.
I know you would.
I mean, it's sometimes hard to not just give an answer because I think I have the answer, but asking the questions. And often when I ask more questions, I actually find out what's really going on, and then my answer is different than if I would have just jumped in. And as a D, I like to jump in and fix the problem right away, but I don't have the facts.
Yeah.
So it can backfire.
Yeah.
So.
There's certainly a time and a place where an answer is necessary. And listen, we can't only ever ask questions. When somebody's asking us questions, to respond with a question often is rude.
Yeah.
And so there's certainly a time and a place to answer a question. But if specifically when we're building relationships and when we're trying to get to know people and understand things, we have to ask questions. Yeah. Right?
That's how we learn.
It's how we learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's those miraculous learners that just sit and listen from people talking at them rather than being able to decipher information. But
yeah, well, I'm not that good of a listener.
No, me either. No.
Yeah. Anything else that you want to share or ask?
No, I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay.
You?
I'm good. Yeah. Thank you again very much for joining me here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
Yeah.